Hello everyone, this is James Strong. This is the Ingress NGINX sub-project meeting for SIG networking, which means it's a CNCF project, and we adhere to the CNCF code of conduct. If you have any issues or if there is a violation, please report those to myself or the SIG networking leads. With that, today is January 19th. We're going to talk about the 160 release and actually do the release so we make sure that it's completed. And with that, there is one major change that we wanted to talk about. So I'm going to pull up the release notes and the PR, and we're going to walk through the one big change. And while I'm doing that, Ricardo, do you want to give the introduction to the 160 release and talk about that?
No, but I
Okay,
can.
cool. Awesome. Great meeting, guys.
Yeah, so basically we didn't make a release since last year, and we had a bunch of we had a bunch of things to fix, some bug fixes, some improvements. Folks have been contributing later on the later year and this year with improvements from end-to-end tests to even some bug fixes on the synchronization. And we think that's now it's the time to make the release of 1.6, even to be compatible with Kubernetes 126. But this release also adds a breaking change, which is, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but Kubernetes, when Ingress turned it into V1, had implemented what's called a path type, that you can say if you want a prefix, an exact path, or an implementation specific. But neither Kubernetes or us never validated the path type, and if what was on the path, it's actually compatible with the path type, right? So per the Kubernetes API comments and the validation that should exist, the path type should be compatible, the path when it's exact or direct or a prefix should be compatible with the RFC that I can't remember the number, but that's 3 something. That says you should be just using alphabetical characters and some special characters like a percentage and other things. And Kubernetes said, okay, so if you want to be out of that, you should be using path type implementation specific, right? And we are kind of starting to enforce this right now, saying that we are not going to accept anymore ingresses with path type prefix or exact and weird characters, including the characters that someone may use when they are using regex features from Ingress NGINX. Right. So if you are using a regex feature on Ingress NGINX, like use regex or rewrite, you should be using path type implementation specific, right? So that's going to be a breaking change. This can be disabled. So that's on the documentation that James is putting on, because we know that sometimes people may just be using that way. But as soon as we want this to be implemented, we decided to go with this default enable, right? So that's the new default behavior for a breaking change, which is we are not going to accept path type implementation and not implementation specific with regex is there. Additionally to that, the subset that characters that we are using, it's smaller than even the RFC because of mainly security reasons, right? As you've followed us on the past, we've been trying to close some command injections and some configurations injections on Ingress, but we understand that some cases may need some special characters. So that's why there is another configuration on the config map that may allow the admin to say, okay, I trust my users on this cluster and I know that they can use whatever random weird character they want to use on their path. I think that's mostly all. This is going to be our first automated release. Thank you, James. So I think this is actually a huge gain for us because releasing Ingress NGINX, it's just a real pain. We've been trying actually to automate this more and more. So we've been talking even with Kubernetes Infra, SIG, to be able to push our own images directly to staging. And so the only manual step is going to be the promotion. of the image to production as soon as we say, okay, we are going to cut the tag so we can do the promotion. Other than that, I can't remember anymore. We are planning for the next version 1.7, deprecating pod security policy, fixing the TLS pass-through and other things, and then going from there to probably version 2, which is going to be the split between control plane and data plane, right? So that's
Gotcha. So Ricardo, so that I make sure that I understand, let me ask. So if I'm using regexes or any other types of special characters, I have to do one of two things. I have to change my path type to implementation specific and or disable the path type validation. And so we're doing 160 is going to enable path type validation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Even if you are using the annotation, like use regex, it's still going to be enforced that you use path type implementation specific.
And that's adhering to the Kubernetes API that we haven't been doing the validation. So now we're enforcing the validation of what's being asked of us from the API. Just making sure that I understand it so that we've clearly enunciated that, because I know that it can be, when I was reading through it, it was confusing to say the least. So I just want to make sure that we're putting it out there very clearly of what folks have to do from a mitigation perspective.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm pretty bad at documenting, but yeah, that's the idea. I'm glad I have you, James.
No, it's always good. That's why I wanted to make sure that everybody read through the release notes and the change log as we were getting this 160 release out there. And if there are additional characters that you're using, also you can update those as well. So again, trying to make it secure while still flexible from a user's perspective. Those two are very difficult with the amount of things that we allow folks to do and what NGINX or the Ingress proxy has to be able to do. So it's a difficult balance. So thank you for putting that out there, Ricardo. And then I think just from a release perspective, I'm missing space. Okay. So we forego doing the normal triage process that we're going to do. So we want to get 160 out there so folks can see that it's available and make sure that we've done the recording. So working through that, I will, of course, fix all of the nitpicks that you have, Ricardo. Any other questions or concerns from the release notes perspective? Of course, I put the normal upgrades that are in there, the 119.4 and the 317 updates as well. This is a release note documentation. I don't know if that indentation error really needs an update because it's just documentation notes, but
no. That's yeah, the indentation is inside the YAML file.
Yeah,
it
was just nuts. But yeah. I'll fix it. I can fix that one.
Okay.
Also, yeah, as we said, that's a new one too. We want to, okay, yeah, the requirements for the chart. That's fair. And then bumping the chart as well. Yep, because we want to make sure that folks aren't doing an automatic rollout like we saw with the 152. So that we can get that updated as well. And then, yeah, we've moved all of the change logs into their individual folders with individual notes. So you can see that the change log is now in a different directory, and each change log will have updated notes so that we help facilitate the automation of the releases. So we want to make sure that folks saw that the change logs are now in a different directory than what they would expect them to be in. But okay, with that, any other thoughts on the release, folks on the call?
I have a question just out of curiosity. On these releases, beyond the normal release notes, spinning the release, putting that out there, do we do any kind of like I hate to call it marketing, but it's like anything like a training video or anything along that lines? And if not, would that be helpful for the community?
The answer is no to the training videos, because that would require more time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we do release it for like the V1 beta 1 change. We did send out a release note and an email to the Kubernetes dev mailing list. We drop it into the user Slack channel. For every release, we do that. For the huge breaking changes, we do send out emails to the Kubernetes dev mailing list, which we probably should for the 1.6.0 release. And then usually I just tweet it out and do a GitHub release. So
Okay.
Beyond that, there's not really much more marketing. I haven't followed up with Ricardo. There is an Ingress NGINX Twitter handle, but we need to get access to that. That's the only other piece that we can probably start putting release notes and like anticipating changes and things like that out to that Twitter handle. But other than that, that's really all we do from announcing that there's a release.
Okay. Would any of that activity be useful if, because that's something that's, to some degree in my wheelhouse. So,
yeah, that would probably be helpful once we have like the updates for the other ones, like we talked about the 1.6.0. Might be a little late for that one. And it might still be helpful if you can get it put out in like the next couple of weeks. But when we have the 1.7.0, like removing pod security policies, all the stuff that Ricardo previously talked about, and when we get to V2 with doing the control plane data plane split, that might be helpful as well to have some videos out there.
All right, awesome. It's something I'd be interested in helping with if it'd be useful.
I think it would be helpful.
Okay, awesome.
I don't think anyone else would reject that idea of like having videos or like changes that folks need to make.
Yeah, well, I mean, to just give them someplace other than DigitalOcean to go to get training video or training content.
Yeah, I work with some of the DigitalOcean folk or previous DigitalOcean folks who do those blog posts, and that's some high quality content out there on their blog.
Yeah, they're amazing. So thank you.
Okay, no problem. Let me restart the share so you all can see my terrible programming. No, I use Golang, and I don't have the Mage stuff out there yet, but I think I still have it all set up. Yeah, so it's all still there, and it's probably too small for you all to see. So let me go ahead and just walk through the release. Long, was there anything that you saw in the release notes that you wanted to add? And now my computer's gonna go crazy. I heard the fans just kick up. And thank you, Ricardo, for all your hard work on the path type implementation. I know it's always fun to get that working.
Happy to break others' environments.
Where's the name of this PR, this branch? Release 1.6.0. Oh, I don't have the Mage files there to do the automated release for us. Because once I make the path type change, it'll have to do all of the other changes as well. I might want to get the Mage stuff merged so that I don't have to do a bunch of Git hackery. Ricardo, do you want to look at that? I think I've updated everything. The big thing was the boilerplate changes, was to get that released. Because that was a requirement for that. because all of the Go code needed the Kubernetes boilerplate headers.
Sorry, James. Can you repeat that?
I want to get this merged in so I don't have to do a bunch of Git trickery of checking out all the mage code to do the release.
Okay.
But let's go see. Should be good to go to do this release. No, the boilerplate code worked again.
Is
Might
it?
not be ready to, yeah.
Yeah, there is the code gen as well. I can take a look into that if you want.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at the code gen one, what that one does, but those headers should be good to go. Because it worked locally, because that test is local. Because it just ultimately runs one of our tests. Let me see if I push those changes. Yeah, it's got the header. I don't know why it's still failing. Might not be ready to do this release then. Or at least make the fixes. Because I don't think you guys want to watch me make a bunch of Git fumbling through Git. See why that failed. Do I have a merge conflict somewhere? No, it's V15.
Yeah. Did you merge the version 1.6?
No, not yet. That's why I'll just do the rebase.
Yeah. If you merge the 1.6, it's gonna be a really mess for you.
Yep, it is because of all of those changes. Because one of the things that it does with this automated release is that it puts everything in alphabetical order and adds a bunch of other details because we're actually checking the spec. Yeah, there it is. There's the issue. That's one of the issues. I don't think we want to walk through this one. I'll make these changes and we'll get the 1.6.0 release out there. But fortunately, I got the recording bit that I wanted, your talking points on the implementation specific things. Okay, so that's my action item. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, just from like a meeting framework perspective, is that we're good at assigning action items, but not following up on those action items. So I wanted to add a part of the meeting is that we just we put in some time to follow up on the action items from the previous meeting. I think this is more to hold me accountable because I get assigned a lot of action items and I don't end up doing all of them. How do you guys feel about making that change to the meeting structure?
No. Yeah, that's fair.
Also to hold you accountable, Ricardo. I like the shrug. No, I agree. One of the other
just one more to my list, James.
I know. One of the other things I wanted to talk about too is that I know we're very close to finishing up most of the stabilization work. These last two bits are the release automation and the CPDP split. We've got most of the other things of like the upgrades completed. I wanted to merge the project and close out the stabilization project. Most of these are added already to the new project. How does everyone feel about that one as well? Closing out that project and moving to this project that gets automatically added. So you see we have 40 issues. So we automatically add issues now. As people open up issue requests and PRs, they automatically get added to this project via GitHub Actions. So we can start using this project to track work and work through everything that we've been working on. So adding the leftover 4 or 5 tasks from the stabilization project to this project board, and then working through this one.
I think it's fair actually to having everything on this one board and closing this. I would just say that maybe I'm not sure if we can start relying more on labels. To be really honest, I don't think I have ever opened this board, but that's
I
my
created
bad
it
on
in the
that.
middle of the holiday, the middle of the holiday break, just testing it out. But yeah, creating some new views like open PRs, maintainers, the maintainers assigned to work and things like that. I do want to I want to play around with the labels and the swim lanes and things like that, and just getting us into the rhythm of using this board to track work and making sure things are labeled properly. But we can't do that until we start actually using it and getting comfortable with it. So I agree, it does need some work, but I think it will be helpful. Okay.
One of the goals of the stabilization project was we wanted to remove, or Ricardo said he wanted to remove Zipkin, Jaeger, and observability pieces that we can't support and we don't want to.
Yeah, I want it, but I'm not sure we are gonna have time, and I think that those can be actually breaking changes, future breaking changes, because to be honest, it took me too much long to finish all of the control plane data plane split. So I don't want to add that one specifically as well to our bucket of changes, and then get people mad at us like, hey, you broke a lot of things at once.
We probably have a before we do the removal, right? So we've got the open telemetry piece in there. We probably should have a migration dot to, like, if you're using Zipkin, Jaeger, or those pieces, have folks, have a migration path to using the open telemetry and then do the removal. So in a couple step process. So
yeah.
So when we do the removal, again, I want to make sure that we've done ample communication, that when we do the breaking changes, folks have known about it, they have a migration path forward, and then we do the change. So that's good. Long, do you know, I don't think we had a separate ticket open for that item to do that removal. We probably need to.
Ehsan committed to saying he can take care of the removal also. So I think we more or less kind of agreed upon that after he finishes, while or after he'll completely take over, he said, removing Jaeger, Zipkin, and also complete and doing the open telemetry the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, let's I'll add an action item to create that ticket, and the 2 steps, right, are have the migration path documented in our documentation, and then in one of our next releases, maybe 170, we can do the removal. But I just want to make sure we do things piecewise, right?
Yeah. So removal is going to be complicated as well, because some people are using mod security at least. So
well, mod security is a separate one from the open telemetry piece, but we can talk about that one separately.
Yeah. Okay. And I think there was a ticket which did have words about removing. So I'll search and I'll confirm on Slack. Ricardo, it's important, but the low priority bug kind of got reported. They're saying that if somebody is using external name as the Ingress backend, and they have a TLS thing going on there. So they're saying that if it is a CH rooted image, then because the etc SSL cert path is not available for the CH rooted image, then if somebody does want to use the default cert against the proxy destination, then it's not going, then CH rooted image has a caveat there that CH rooted image can't do that. It's not high priority, but I did not know that this was a problem.
Yeah, I need to check this because this external DNS stuff and all of this thing would be probably how to figure out how the balancer actually deals with that. So I would say that, yeah, I don't know long. I'll need to take a look into that as well. From the top of my head, there are pieces of the code that I have never touched, so I don't know how this can be.
I brought it up to
That's
ask.
one of those things where it's like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Because that does introduce a security risk of like having proxying to an external name. I think
It's a very small use case, and I think the problem we have is that we did support it. We have annotations and config map documentation that people who want to do that can do that. So I was talking to this guy on the issue. I'm telling him, why would you want to do that? He said he just wants those applications available on a host name of their choice and doesn't want to hand off the redirection to clients. So he is doing that. And there's actually open issues on that from last year, about 2 years, from 2021. So he's saying he's probably the only person asking for it right now. But so it's low priority. But it kind of popped up because it's important in the sense that we have a feature, and just because of CH root. So not important, but Ricardo, because you're talking about streaming, changing the implementation to NGINX stream, I was wondering if it matters there, or if proxy is a different code path and streaming is a different code path.
It's a different code path.
Okay, then not relevance for today then.
Yeah, I want to make the approach the same or similar, but right now it's different.
Okay.
Okay, folks. So I've closed out the stabilization project. And then everything that's in there now is in the Ingress NGINX project. And then we can continue to work on cleaning that up, making the swarm lanes that we want and the views that we want. And then just go from there. So yeah, that's where we're at. I vote that we use the rest of the half hour to clean up the release process and go from there. And then I'll put out, I'll open up a Google Drive doc if we want. Ricardo, do you think we should also put out the email to the Kubernetes dev mailing list outlining what we've just talked about? And when we have the reporting, put the reporting in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do that now while we're talking, and then I'll copy and paste what's in the release notes, and then we'll go from there. I think that's a pretty high bar, not high bar. I think that's us doing our diligence, making sure everyone's aware of the changes, and I'll get the release out today. And it was the fact that it was a Friday release on a holiday weekend before the new year. Definitely don't do that. I have no issues doing Friday releases, but it was the Friday release with a breaking change in front of the holiday. But yeah, with that, I'll go ahead and I'll close out the recording, and then we can work through the rest of the things with the time that's available.
So, Ricardo, quick question. If we have